Everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Um, Before we begin, I want to go over some housekeeping items. At the bottom of your console, there are some widgets there. You can move them, resize them, interact with them. Don't be shy. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A widget and chat with attendees in the attendee chat. If you have any issues, click that help widget. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. And good afternoon and good morning, everybody. My name is Ian. I'm a category manager with Insight. I'm really excited to have you here today. We're going to talk through a lot of different things here, but it's going to all make sense and tie together pretty nicely. So we're going to hear from a few of our presenters today. Our topics are around Windows 11. We'll focus on some of the security and compliance features of Windows 11 and some of the changes that Microsoft has done with this new operating system. In addition, we'll hear from some of our expertise when it comes to our security consulting services and how Insight really helps when it comes to security services. This is what it will kind of look like. We'll go through Windows 11 first. We'll hear from Rob McGilvray from Microsoft, and then we'll go into Insight's Microsoft partnership, and we'll finish off with Insight Security Portfolio. Our speakers for today will be myself, Ian Platenik, Rob McGilvray. He's the modern endpoint lead for Microsoft, really managing up all of the device business with Microsoft and delivering a message on Windows 11 today with us. We also have David Downs, and David Downs is actually our owner of Cybersecurity Services. David just waved, so thanks, sir. We also have Adam Duffy. He's a product manager for Insight, handling some of our managed service business as well. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Rob McGilvray, and he's going to walk us through what's new in Windows 11 around security and compliance. Rob, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Ian, and it's great to be here today, whether it's morning or afternoon. Based here out of Dallas, Texas, so hopefully everyone is staying cool. I know it's been pretty hot here in the South recently, and so I'm just very excited today to talk a little bit about Windows 11, specifically around security, what's new with Windows 11, and really why you should start planning your Windows 11 migration now. So what we do know is that cybersecurity threats are becoming more frequent and even more sophisticated today. We did a survey back in late 2021 where we found that about 83% of those IT and security decision makers that we surveyed experienced at least some level of firmware level attack in their environment over the past few years. So we know that these threats are evolving. We know they're not just going after identity, they're actually going after the physical hardware that our users are using on a daily basis. We also know that the average cost for a cyber attack for those that experienced one was about 6.7% in revenue loss. We also know that this market is growing. We're estimating, by 2025 that it'll be about a $10.5 trillion a year business in cyber crime. I actually looked at global GDPs, and that would actually put cybersecurity as a top 5 GDP globally when we think about the impact that it has from a cost perspective. We also know that, ransomware attacks are growing. There was about 150% growth in ransomware attacks between 2020 and 2021. We also know that, 43% of decision makers have stated that security is still top of mind for them. We also know that 60% of organizations still have people working remotely, so that hybrid work is here to stay. We also know with those security decision makers that we talked to, about 86% of them agree that new modern hardware will actually help protect against some of these evolving threats, and that software really isn't enough anymore. We also know that greater than 70% of business leaders out there say that, device performance and the quality of the device needs to improve to really help, protect the way that we're working. And so we've got a poll question here. And so read this poll question. Love to hear from the audience. What are your organization's key cybersecurity focus areas for 2023? So if you want to go ahead and fill out that poll survey, and we can look at those results later. So I did want to touch on really zero trust. I know we throw this topic and this buzzword out there a lot, but I really wanted to level set because this really is the foundation of how we approach Windows and our chip to cloud security story. And so when we think about zero trust, there's really 3 core principles. First, we want to verify explicitly, right? We always want to authenticate and make sure that the person says who they are, to make sure that we know that they're the right person accessing the right information. We also want to make sure that we can use additional data points available to us as we look at verifying explicitly, things like device health, maybe even potentially some type of conditional access based on location. We also want to look at, using least privilege access, or as I like to say, just the right amount of access for an end user to be productive. So we're not restricting them too much, but we're also, not giving them too much access as well. And then lastly, always operate in this manner of assuming a breach. How can we contain that blast radius? We can't stop every single bad actor out there. But if a bad actor gets in, what do we have in place to make sure that we're mitigating that blast radius and limiting the damage that can happen to our organization? And so when we think about that from a Windows perspective, again, we only got an hour here today and a lot of topics to cover, but I'd love to show kind of this foundation and the layers here of how we approach security from a device perspective. So we start all the way down in our partnership with the silicon, all the way at the hardware level. And then we look at how can we then layer on security from an operating system perspective, what security do we have in place from applications, identity, and then ultimately the cloud. Are we leveraging those solutions in our Microsoft 365 subscription to make sure that we're protecting our environment as much as we possibly can? So what can Windows 11 do for your business? Obviously, security. Again, we know security is top of mind. We're actually tracking now about a 58% drop in security instances on Windows 11 devices versus Windows 10. And so the improvements we've made and the things that we've started turning on by default really have helped reduce those security instances on those endpoints. We also know that IT management, we know that app compatibility continues to be a top barrier in migration, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we have a 99.6% app compatibility rate between Windows 10 and Windows 11. We also know user experiences can be improved. We're seeing a 15% increase in employee productivity on Windows 11 versus Windows 10. They're also seeing a 50% faster workload. As I mentioned, business leaders are stating, hey, we need better, higher quality devices that can perform at a top performance level. And so we're seeing, faster workloads on Windows 11 devices versus Windows 10 as well. There's also a 250% ROI. You may be thinking, okay, how do you get to a 250% ROI with Windows 11? We did a study with Forrester back in December of 2022. We had some assumptions for this organization. Around $1 billion a year in annual revenue, 2,000 employees, and on a 4-year average refresh cycle with a globally distributed workforce. And in this study, we found that if the organization leveraged Microsoft 365 and Windows 11, they actually saw a 250% ROI payback in less than 6 months. There's actually a device calculator here. There's a link at the bottom. When you get access to this information, you can actually go in and actually input your own organization's information and get a customized report out based on the study on the impact that Windows 11 can have in your organization. What we found from this study are some interesting stats. We did see a 20% reduction in a successful security attack. Actually saw an 80% reduction in incoming help desk tickets, and we'll talk about a key feature there here in a minute that helped contribute to that reduction in help desk tickets. A 25% decrease in deployment time, leveraging things like Windows Autopilot. A 20% increase in productivity for security and IT teams. I mentioned this earlier, 15% increase in productivity for end users, and then a 4% reduction for cost supporting legacy hardware. And so what we wanted to do now is really just kind of highlight. We've got a couple sizzle reels here that I'm going to share from my desktop around what's new with Windows 11, and then we'll jump into why your organization should really start planning now and what's at stake for Windows 11, and then ultimately, lastly, we'll close out with what the future is. So go ahead and share my screen here. We'll check out what's new with Windows 11.
Sorry, guys. We're having some audio issues, but we're going to try to troubleshoot it here quickly.
right, so I guess we don't have audio coming through, so we do apologize for that. You did miss some great elevator music on that first video, but go ahead and play a second video here. It's a little bit shorter, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the new features with Windows 11, and then we'll go from there. All right, great. There we go. We'll stop screen share here and kind of jump back over to kind of what's new with Windows 11. So, we saw two great videos there. The last one was actually some additional features that we launched into Windows 11 22H2 back earlier this spring, bringing things like the Bing Chat GPT built into the taskbar. We actually just yesterday announced Bing Chat for Enterprise, so an enterprise solution that follows all of our security parameters, protecting customers' information with the Bing Chat as well. So super excited about that. Also, we got iPhone capabilities to the PhoneLink app. So it used to be just Android, but now we have iPhone support there. And then things from an inclusivity perspective around Braille support and different things like that as we continue to make improvements and investments into the Windows 11 ecosystem. But when we launched Windows 11 22H2, as we all know, when we launched Windows 11 to start, we did raise that base hardware threshold to run Windows 11. And we started turning things on like virtual base security and HVCI. As I mentioned earlier, we saw a 58% reduction. We're seeing a 58% reduction in security instances between Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices. And a lot of that is accomplished by just turning those features on by default. Those features were available in Windows 10 in all transparency, but you had to have those hardware components to be able to turn those features on. We are bringing new features, again, from a security perspective to help. You saw a feature in the first video called Enhanced Phishing and Protection with Microsoft Defender Smart Screen. So we analyze trillions of security signals on a yearly basis at Microsoft. And if the site is flagged with Microsoft as potentially harvesting credentials, and one of our end users goes and inputs their information into that site, we're going to proactively ping that user and say, hey, we think something bad potentially happened, and you should probably go reset your password or start that process. Also, we brought presence sensing to Windows 11. So if you have hardware that supports presence sensing, if you get up and walk away from your device and forget to lock it, which can happen, especially with hybrid work, potentially working at a coffee shop, it's going to automatically lock that screen. And then when you walk back up, it's going to automatically wake it up so you can have a better sign-in experience. And also protect, those instances where maybe we potentially forget to lock our computer when we walk away. From a management perspective, we're bringing new things in like organizational messaging, so template messaging. If you're leveraging Microsoft Intune with Windows 11, you can actually send organizational information directly to an end user's desktop. We find that this is a popular feature with HR, thinking of ways to communicate with end users outside of the normal collaboration platforms such as Teams, Zoom, or Slack, and even potentially Outlook. But we also bring remote help in. So as an add-on with the Intune, remote help will be available directly in Windows 11 with that add-on in Intune. We'll talk a little bit about Microsoft TestBase and Microsoft Aperture here in a minute around application testing. But from a business perspective, things like snap layouts, we did move the taskbar to the center. You can move it back to the left if you want. And then if you have the devices, we're continuing to integrate Teams in the operating system just for a better overall collaboration experience, when you are taking remote meetings. One feature that, we talked about when we talked about ROI was really around Windows Hello for Business. So we did see in that Forrester study that there was an 80% reduction in incoming help desk tickets. And a lot of that is based around, helping your organization move to a more passwordless environment, leveraging the capabilities of hardware, infrared camera, fingerprint readers to really enable passwordless authentication, to be able to log in that device, kind of like that phone experience where you just look at the camera and it automatically logs you in with your face, and having that to be single sign-on across all applications and be an enterprise level grade of multi-factor authentication. I will say, I've been at Microsoft now 3.5 years, and I've never had to reset my password. I'll say that again. I've been at Microsoft 3.5 years, and I've never had to reset my password, because we know that password help desk tickets, are still the #1 incoming ticket into a help desk in many organizations today. And so leveraging this technology, purchasing the right hardware that enables this technology to be used, along with your Microsoft 365 subscription in Windows, you can leverage this to really help alleviate some of that incoming help desk ticket traffic, and then just make your environment more secure. As we know, that multi-factor authentication, can really block about 99.9% of all identity theft attacks, from those bad actors that we know are continuing to rise in the market. So why now? Why should I move to Windows 11 now? And so we really wanted to just spend a couple minutes in this section, and then we'll close out with some of the future things that we've announced around Windows 11. In full transparency, when Windows 11 first launched, Gartner actually came out and said, don't move. You should wait. They since have done a reprint back in December and saying, hey, now is the time to move. And they really give us 4 key reasons. You can visit this link, aka.ms, move to Windows 11, and read the full report. But the first thing they say is familiarity. The Windows 10 and 11 are never going to be as similar as they are today. Again, you can get to Windows 11 via a feature update to Windows 10 on an eligible piece of hardware. So again, the OSs are built on the same foundation, and they're never going to be as similar as we continue to make investments into Windows 11. We've also announced that Windows 10 22H2 will no longer receive any more additional feature updates, just security updates. So we're not making and bringing new features into the Windows 10 platform. Next, it gives you some additional runway. Again, end of support for Windows 10 22H2 is October of 2025. So it still gives you a bit of a runway as you look at migrating and deploying Windows 11 into your environment. Third is around new silicon. So Intel launched new silicon with their new architecture with their 12th generation chipset, this hybrid architecture where they have performance cores versus efficiency cores. And so we've actually made investments into the Windows 11 scheduler to take advantage of that thread director. So you will see better performance running Windows 11 on a 12th generation processor or higher from Intel, because we have made the investments in Windows 11 to take advantage of that new architecture where we did not in Windows 10. And lastly, and probably our favorite reason, is that it is a stable operating system. So when we think about those Windows 10 lifecycle moments, so we actually just announced late last week that Windows 11 23H2 will be coming out later this year, and it's actually going to come out via an enablement package to Windows 11 22H2. So it's going to use the same source code. And so as we think about your migration and getting to Windows 11 22H2, to move to the next version of Windows 11 23H2 will just be done by an enablement package. So a very easy lift to turn on those additional features that will be coming with Windows 11 23H2. But when we think about our Windows 10 moments, again, end of support for Windows 10 22H2 is October 14th, 2025. Well, you could potentially be running a version of Windows 10 today in your environment that has an end of support date sooner than that. Earlier in May, we saw that Windows 10 20H2 actually went into support on May 9th, 2023. One of the most popular operating systems still today is Windows 10 21H2. We know that actually goes end of support about 11 months from now. And so when you're thinking about your journey and your plan of moving to Windows 11, it's really important to understand where you're at in your Windows 10 journey, and how can you plan strategically to potentially move those devices that are running Windows 10 21H2 that can support Windows 11 directly over to Windows 11. So you can be ready for Windows 11 23H2 via that enablement package when it becomes available later this year. And when you think about Windows 11 readiness, there's really 4 key areas to focus in on. Again, hardware eligibility, understanding your estate, knowing what devices can move to Windows 11, which ones can't, and then planning how to refresh those devices into new hardware. Again, plan for coexistence. Windows 10 and 11, they can operate in parallel. They can exist in your environment. device management, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. And then how am I prepping my users to be ready for this transition from Windows 10 to 11? When we think about device management, there is consistent management across both Windows 10 and 11. You can use the tools that you're using today to manage Windows 11 that you're using to manage Windows 10. If you're still on-prem with SCCM, you can leverage that to manage Windows 11. I've worked with organizations that have updated eligible hardware just via SCCM, pushing out that feature update directly to those devices that are eligible to operate Windows 11. If you're in the cloud, again, you can leverage Intune. If you're using third-party management tools, we ask that you just verify with your third party that they support Windows 11 management in their tools. So when you think about Windows 11, I said this before, and we'll continue to stress this. To get to Windows 11, it's either a feature update to Windows 10 on an eligible piece of hardware, or you have to do a device refresh to get those older pieces of hardware into a state where the hardware is compatible with operating Windows 11. So this is just a sample migration plan. I'm not going to go through every step here. This is taken from our Microsoft Learn documents. But it really is just a similar process of how you would roll out feature updates and updates to Windows 10 today. Again, the biggest differentiator here is really just understanding your environment, to understand which devices are eligible to run Windows 11, which ones aren't, and then planning out how you're going to get those ineligible devices out of your environment by October 2025, so you can fully be moved over to Windows 11 and in a supported version of Windows. One thing we did want to touch on, because we still do hear this from customers, is really around application compatibility. Currently, we have a 99.6% app compatibility rate from Windows 10 to 11, and compatibility was really by design when we look at Windows 11. Again, it's a feature update to Windows 10. And so we actually have two tools and resources available. One is called Microsoft TestBase for Microsoft 365. This is a cloud environment where you can go in and test your applications before broadly deploying Windows 11. We also have what's called our Microsoft App Promise. And so this is available through our General Fast Track program. We actually guarantee that if you're running an application on Windows 10 today, that it will run on Windows 11. If it does not, our App engineering team will get involved free of charge to help you remediate why that application is not running on Windows 11 or is encountering an issue. This is available for any size of organization, 1 employee or more. And so we take app compatibility seriously, and we put a promise in place, again, that states that if your application, even line of business applications, are running on Windows 10 today, we guarantee that they will run on Windows 11. So to close this section out, we really just kind of wanted to just spend a brief second. We'll share another video. I'll see if there's a different way to get audio going. I didn't see an option, but we will share one last video before we hand it back over to the team. But one thing we did want to touch on is the future. We know that AI is top of mind for everyone. There's a lot of buzz around a lot of these technologies out there in the market, ChatGPT, Microsoft 365 Copilot. We also know that end users state that they would leverage AI to help lighten their workloads. And we know that, everyone is getting pressure. I don't really like using the terms, but everyone's getting that pressure really, to do more with less. And so how can AI play into that? A few weeks ago, we actually made an announcement at our Build conference around Windows Copilot coming to the Copilot ecosystem at Microsoft. And so I just wanted to share a brief video around Windows Copilot. Windows Copilot is available in the dev channel currently in our Insider program. So if you want to go and check it out, if you've got any devices in the Insider program, if you're in the dev channel, Windows Copilot is available for early testing in that channel as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here again, play this last video, and we'll hand it back over to the Insight team. All right. Well, just want to say again, thank you for, having me join today in this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be looking at the chat throughout the rest of this webinar. And again, we just want to let you know that, we're here to help in your Windows 11 migration. So please let us know how we can help, and I'll kick it back over to Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Really cool stuff there. What you shared about AI, first time I've seen that slide. Really fascinating how you guys are already incorporating that. So we're going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about Insight's relationship with Microsoft. Really, some of the things that we've done in the past, some of the things we're doing in the future when it comes to supporting our Microsoft business with Insight. I'm going to go through a couple of slides here, and I just want to kind of tell a little story to start this. So when it comes to who Insight is and what we do around Microsoft, this is really the main thing. We're service strong. We have over 8,000 sales and service delivery experts that we work with to help clients' projects, migrations, what have you. We have over 4,000 now architects, consultants, as well as engineers who can really help with getting in the weeds of the projects. Overall, Insight has delivered over 4,000 projects, and we've migrated over an exabyte of data, over 2 million workloads with our client base and the folks that work with Insight around their Microsoft projects. We are a global company. We have global expertise. We have managed service opportunities within Microsoft in over 6 continents. And total, we have over 4 million seats under CSPs, EAs, or any sort of Microsoft agreement. On the right side, you can kind of see who we are as a company when it comes to some of the well-known, recognized companies out there. We have Gartner, Forrester, Fortune, as well as the Channel Futures MSP list that we were 2021 number 1 and 2022 number 1 as well. But outside of Microsoft, it comes to a whole ecosystem, right? So when it comes to our partnerships, we have over 6,000 partners that we work with. We can help with integrations. We can help with security frameworks and really building on a layered approach. And then lastly, I just wanted to kind of sink into this next slide here. This is who we are as a company from an industry perspective. So from 2021, you can see the growth in 2022, and then you can see where we're at today with 2023 when it comes to our industry recognized awards, whether it's a Microsoft Partner of the Year award, if it's a Security Changemaker award, if it's Insight's Chief Information Security Officer being named the Security Changemaker because of the work we've done with our clients, or if it has anything else to do with Microsoft 365 or Azure, Insight is able to accommodate any type of Microsoft opportunity at the highest level. The partner program with Microsoft is changed a little bit in the last recent year. So now we have our solution partner designations. So there's 6 of them with Microsoft, and on the right side of my screen, you can see some of those areas of focus here. So we have data and AI and some of our cloud journey with Azure. We have digital and app innovation, and on the left side, you'll see a couple nods to that. Infrastructure when it comes to Azure, how are you running in the cloud? What type of help do you need? Migrations, et cetera. We also have modern work, some of our solutions around device as a service, helping with adoption when it comes to M365 and different types of Microsoft services. And then a big one here that we're going to focus on for the rest of this presentation is really around security. And the cool thing about security is in order to receive what Microsoft calls a specialization, you need to have a number of people who are certified across the board in different things that Microsoft's putting out. You need to have a proven track record of helping. You need to work with a certain set number of clients, and you need to really practice this and be able to then submit for these types of specializations. So Insight has 18 specializations within these 6 partner designations. And on this next slide, I'm just going to kind of walk you through those a little bit. So on the security piece, there's only 4 that a company is able to achieve when working with Microsoft as a partner. And that around security is related to the cloud, identity and access, information protection and governance, as well as your threat protection. You can also see the other areas, those designations that we've received advanced specializations in as well. So you can kind of see that even though the conversation right now is about Windows 11 devices, upgrading, having a migration plan in place, understanding the features, getting the employees set up and understanding Windows 11. This is really a full solution when it comes to Insight's relationship with Microsoft. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight a couple things that have happened in 2023 recently for Insight. So for the last 30 years, Insight has had a partnership with Microsoft. We are within the top 1% of all Microsoft partners out there. We have expertise, like I mentioned, we have over 4,000 architects, engineers, and consultants who are able to assist with various Microsoft asks. And we also just received the Worldwide Solution Partner of the Year. And so when you see a lot of these awards, sometimes it's like, oh, well, what are they? How do you get them? Right? This is something that Microsoft works with their partners on. They look at what we've done in that past year. And then they basically told us, Insight, great job working with all those clients. You've had different types of solutions between Microsoft 365 and Azure. And because you were a leader in innovation and implementation, congratulations, here's your 2023 Worldwide Solution Assessment Partner of the Year. But you can also see how we interact globally. We won awards with Australia as well as Hong Kong country. And when it comes to app development and really understanding, Insight's done a lot of strategic acquisitions through companies like Blue Metal, Cardinal, as well as Datalink to really incorporate those types of solutions, those application development solutions, the data center solutions, servicing, all into one portfolio within Insight. So that's kind of Insight as a high level. And I presented on this one, so I'll skip it. But again, just wanted to focus on these specializations around security. There are only 4 that you can get as a partner with Microsoft, and Insight has achieved all 4. So with that being said, I'm going to have a polling question here, and this is just going to ask you a little bit about some of the business limitations around security, just to get a feel for what you guys are facing in your environment. And after that, I'm going to pass it over to Adam Duffy. He is our service product manager, covering a lot of our managed services, and he'll be able to talk through some of the Insight go-to-market around security. And then he will pass it to David, who is our owner of security, cybersecurity services with Insight. So with that being said, Adam, I'd like to hand it off to you here, and looking forward to hearing.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. Amazing. So let's see here. We talked about the transitioning from the larger solutions integrator conversation. Just wanted to take a minute here and talk about Insight's expertise, accolades, qualifications specifically in security. So Insight has been providing security services for over 20 years. We have over 900 clients leveraging security services, including top industry names across the spectrum of different industries, including healthcare, construction, local government, logistics, travel, education, financial, retail, technology, hospitality. I mean, you name it. We have engaged in that at that level of that industry. We have a global presence. We have delivery resources in North America, EMEA, APAC, with hundreds of experts with top certifications such as CISSP, CCIE, QSA, PMP, Tenable, TCSA, SE, Cisco, and really many others that deliver across a spectrum of areas, providing breadth and depth into the various security network workloads, including discovery and deciphering, architecture, solution design, configuration and implementation, POCs and pilots, SecOps for ongoing monitoring and resolution, really more than that even. And so Insight has provided endpoint security to over 2 million endpoints, and this number continues to grow. We deliver thousands of security-based projects per year, specifically including hundreds of governance, risk, compliance, PCI, and HIPAA. And other things. Listen, our clients love us. We embrace a growth and client-obsessed mindset. And this is an important part of our approach, especially in security, since there are daily developments in the industry and the need to meet those challenges shift. Our clients have experienced that, and it shows. We are in a unique place among Microsoft partners, being in the top 1%. As Ian shared, we did achieve those 4 of the Microsoft specializations, as he mentioned, and also being a top Microsoft Cloud partner in all 6 solution areas. This is, as Ian also mentioned before. And moving on, even continue, we're a Cisco Gold integrator with a master specialization in data center and hybrid cloud, networking and security. We held over 820 certifications, and we're 2022 Partner of the Year for Cisco Americas. We deliver great solutions based on Palo Alto technologies, earning 2020 Partner of the Year and continuing to strengthen that partnership. Additionally, we celebrate 10 great years of partnership with Fortinet, and with 2022 Growth Partner of the Year. So as a whole, really, Insight is just really well equipped to deliver security outcomes for enterprise with the additional unique ability to cross into nearly every other area of the IT landscape. Our solutioning abilities gives our clients one hand to shake with skills at scale. So let's talk a bit about how we follow a structured approach. Our approach follows industry standard guidelines. So for starting with to strategize and evaluate, we have specific services designed to get to the root of the challenge. Some examples of assessments include open framework, such as NIST. We have closed frameworks, such as ISO 27001, CMMC, and HITRUST. We have cloud security, including some Microsoft-funded Azure and other non-Microsoft even. We have PCI assessment and advisory services. And these are just things to kind of get the conversation started and discover what sorts of things need to occur in order to land at your need. We also provide penetration testing, security advisory, VCSO plus, SIM configuration, system hardening, vulnerability management. So as you can see, just really, we're specialized with the solutions to go and deliver these targeted needs. But going beyond assessments and testing, we can move into targeted actions such as configuration, optimization, and ongoing management. Top areas such as cloud identity and endpoint, data and application, network and edge, and managed security operations. So really at a high level, when we stack the last slide and take our expertise, Insight's extensive expertise, and our teams that make it happen, and note that we are available to listen deeply to your IT and specifically, in this case, security challenges, and apply a standardized approach that will meet your needs for the near term and, of course, long term. And that's what we are here for. So really, part of stemming off from the long term outcome situations, I'd like to talk about more about the managed solution that Insight has. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mr. David Downs from this point, and we can go from there.
Hey, David, sorry, I think you're on mute.
Ian, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Man, is that not just daily life? Yeah, take it away.
All right. So what I was saying is on this slide, what we're going to highlight are Insight's managed security services today, kind of what's on the truck for us to offer to our clients. One of the great things about being a product owner around cybersecurity for Insight is I'm also on the cutting edge too. So I get to see kind of what we're doing today, but then, with Gartner, Forrester, clients able to, understand what the needs of the future are. Certainly, Rod mentioned earlier that this is a $10.5 trillion industry for the bad guys, and they continue to evolve. And so we have to evolve and be cutting edge and stay with that. So that's the really fun part about my job. But right now, what we want to focus on is, how we can help today. And certainly the endpoint is a big focus area of ours. Rob also mentioned earlier, over 50% of device refreshes are security breach related. Somebody gets into a device, we have to quarantine it, get it shipped back somewhere, and get a new device sent to that end user that has not been infected. We generally use Microsoft Defender for Endpoint for this, but it really helps us be proactive when it comes to monitoring these devices. Ultimately, we want to reduce incidents and those breaches, of course, because that really reduces cost for you as an organization. And once we know the endpoint's secure, another thing we can offer is around the identity and access management part. And again, this is one of those 4 areas of Microsoft specializations that we are in. But, credential abuse is common, and we have to make sure that the right person and in the right location is accessing that device or the files that they need. And so, Microsoft Defender for Identity is a great way to do that. Obviously, it's moving to Entra, so we're aligned to that as well. When it comes to exposure management, an analogy that a colleague told me recently was, think of this as a building. Let's say you're a doctor, you own a doctor's office. Of course, at nighttime, you need to lock the doors, close the windows, make sure they're locked as well. Probably keep the special supplies, drugs locked up inside the building. But you're doing anything you can to make sure that any type of break-in, they just can't get there. So we're doing all these things with tools. Defender for Vulnerability Management, a great tool for this. We're able to see what's going on in your environment, take a look at your attack services, reduce those to the very minimum. And if there's vulnerabilities, of course, remediate those so they don't have the keys to the kingdom. But if I skip down to the bottom right with threat protection, so this is, where the bad guys, even though you did all your due diligence on exposure, they get in. So how do you ensure that if they are in, they don't get what they need? We take a proactive stance with this, with some of our partnerships. Microsoft Defender for Threat Intelligence, another great tool that we use here, but we're able to go out and see the bad actors, these adversaries. We hunt for them. We understand what their, this certain group would be doing. So we're able to detect what's happening, rapidly respond to it, and neutralize those breaches immediately. So a great combination. And by the way, certain clients subscribe to just one piece of the 8 pieces of the pie on this screen, but many subscribe to multiple. If I finish the top row with application security, this is really focused, managed Office 365, managed Defender for cloud apps, but we're really taking a look at email, collaboration tools, phishing attacks, just doing anything we can to protect users. That's a very common way that the bad actors get into our environments. And so that's where we focus our application security. Bottom left around data, Microsoft Purview, a great tool here for data loss protection, encryption, making sure the databases, anything around storage is secure and you only have access to the right people. Cloud and infrastructure security. This is kind of our full XDR stack, but Microsoft Defender for Cloud is a great tool here. And that's really around anything with those workloads from Azure. You might be still on-prem, but the firewalls, the gateways, anything around the network is what we're focused on here. And then to finish this slide around risk management and compliance, Azure Security, M365D are tools that we use here, but it's everything around the GRC and the threat intelligence tools, just making sure that our clients have this kind of strategy around any type of security that they need, and we're able to help them in that way. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A as well. And we do have a quick polling question here, and this really kind of highlights the 8 areas that I just had on the last. And we know that our clients use multiple partners in order to deliver these services. Some do it all internally. That's pretty rare, honestly. But the question is, how many providers do you work with today in order to get the required outcomes we just highlighted on the last slide? Is it 0, insourced, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, or more than 6? We'll review those at the end. So I wanted to bring up, and I'll just spend a minute on this slide, but this is a client that we have, and they had a service outage that was high impact. They're an energy company, so it impacted a lot of their customers that receive energy. Obviously, the government was not pleased that this happened, and they gave the company about a week in order to hit these requirements that the government gave to the company. Initially, bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but the company responded as best they could internally, came up with 11 work streams, was a bit haphazard, but started to try to understand how to solve this. Now, this client is a client of Insights for other things already. So we do their level 1 service desk, hardware, software, but other services as well. They came to us and said, we need help. Here's what happened. How can you help us? So earlier, Adam talked about some of the workshops and assessments we can do. So we got involved quickly to understand what their current state was. We came up with a work stream, consolidating those 11 work streams they had down to the 5 that you see here. Pretty conveniently, those 5 obviously align to what we just covered in the last slide. But we were able to say, okay, this is what we'll need to do in order to resolve this and make sure that you're secure going forward. And really the outcomes for them was, 1, they had a really fast response. The government agency was pleased with it. And secondly, our managed services now are in full effect. And so we're keeping them in a secure posture and ensuring that there's no other service outages that are affecting them and their clients. I need to share my screen real quick to show you the next slide. All right, give me 1 second. Let's talk about this slide first. So this has been mentioned a few times, but the way Insight starts, and I guess I'll use the doctor analogy one more time, is, we're not a general physician. We don't have a person come in and, oh, let's give you some over-the-counter exercise Tylenol to try to solve this issue. We want to get to the really root cause, the understanding of what's happening in your environment, see where you are today. We know from all the industry frameworks where you need to be in order to have that security posture that you need. And we come up with a very diagnostic and prescriptive approach to getting you there. So the workshops, the consulting that we can do on the front end to help you just come up with a plan. If you need us to architect and design or even deploy the solutions, we're happy to do that. Ultimately, when it comes to training and operations, this gets into just end user education. How do you make sure your end users aren't clicking on phishing emails and just are doing their job when it comes to keeping your environment secure? And then ultimately, what we talked about at depth here with me is around our managed security services, everything that we offer there. Let me try one more time to share the screen. Ian, is that showing up for us?
Looks good.
Thank you, sir. What we have here is the Critical Security Controls Workshop. So this is just one example of what we can do. But we have a framework here. There's about 20 different items that we would assess. And we meet with you, do surveys, and talk to you about where you are today. And, in the basic column, and this is a bit small, but, this is where we start looking at hardware, software, vulnerabilities, some of the real basic things that every organization needs to cover from security. Then we move to foundational. This is where we get into email, web, the data, the network, the workloads from the cloud, account monitoring, things like that. And then ultimately organizational wide, this is pen testing, security awareness for the employees. But the real key to this is, once you complete a workshop like this, you'll get a scorecard for each of these areas. So you'll have 20 areas that you'll see your maturity of where you are today. And then ultimately, that output would not be of much value, but we have recommendations from there. So these are the type of things that you would need to do to improve the maturity score for each area. And we can even recommend partners, that have the right tool set in order to make that happen. So just one example of what we can do. If you do have interest in anything we talked about today, of course, please let us know. We're happy to talk through any more future steps with you. And with that, Ian, I think I covered what I needed to, and I'll let you take us to the finish line, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it, David. Really nice work there. So guys, we have a couple questions that came through, and I just wanted to make sure that we get those answered. And then if you do have any additional ones, please drop them in the Q&A or the attendee chat, and we'll make sure that we can get those. So Rob, it looks like this one's for you related to Windows readiness. It says, what are some of those initial steps we should consider in order to define device readiness?
Yeah, so great question. First, it's really just kind of understanding. So we do have some tools built already today. If you're still on-prem using Configuration Manager, SECM, we have some scripting built where you can go out and actually get a report pulled that'll tell you which devices are eligible to move, which ones aren't. If you are leveraging Intune and Endpoint Analytics, there's a report called Work From Anywhere, and there's actually a sub-tab that'll tell you around Windows 11 readiness for your estate. And so really, that's kind of the big first step is really getting a good understanding of, which devices are eligible from a hardware perspective and which ones aren't. And then really, creating that plan of, strategic refresh between now and October of 2025 to make sure you can get all those devices refreshed and over onto hardware that supports Windows 11. We are seeing potentially that, during COVID, we know that inventory was hard to come by. And so, there could potentially be devices that, may not be set for refresh before October 2020, before October 2025 that aren't actually compatible with Windows 11, and where potentially maybe a device that is slated for refresh before then is actually compatible. And so, that's a very big element as you look at your migration plan to Windows 11. So, great question.
Thanks, Rob. I was just responding in the chat. Andre just asked if the presentation will be available. So yes, we could send it out after this call. It looks like Adam or David, if you guys want to handle this one, do you have services around Sentinel?
Sure, I'll go ahead and just speak to this one quickly. Yes, we absolutely have managed services around Sentinel. That includes configuration and then setting you up to be able to have our team monitor those, have eyes on glass regularly and keep you informed. And of course, determine whatever kind of remediations are necessary from there. So absolutely, we do support Sentinel. And we can also plug it into Managed Defender for endpoint as well. So we have some supplemental services that connect together to really fill in those gaps and really leverage all the Microsoft technologies and even additional ones as well to keep you informed and keep those remediations in place to keep your entire landscape in view and your security score and outcome very high. So absolutely we do.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate that one. I'm not seeing any others. I saw those three and then the one Andre just had. So we do have about 6 minutes left. We're happy to just kind of stay on. If you guys do have anything to add or any questions, feel free to engage. We'll have a copy of anything that comes through the chat or Q&A post-webinar as well. So if you do need an answer to something quickly, we can get back to y'all. But with that being said, Rob, thank you for the time today. Adam, thank you for your time. David, thank you for your time. And then everybody who joined today, we really appreciate it. And thanks for being available and making yourself happy to join.
Yeah, thanks everyone.